Look, I'm not saying that humans are weird. I'm just saying that when you've spent 300 cycles studying xenobiology across 47 species, and you think you've seen everything the galaxy has to offer, and then a human shows up and breaks literally every assumption you've ever made about pack dynamics, social hierarchy, and basic survival instincts. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Well, maybe, just maybe, humans are a little bit weird. My name is Carthex, and I'm a Volnari. If you're not familiar with my species, picture a wolf. Now make that wolf stand upright, give it opposable thumbs, make it about 7 feet tall, cover it in silvery gray fur. And congratulations, you've got yourself a Volnari. We're pack hunters. We've got an entire society built around pack structures, and we literally wrote the galactic textbook on pack behavior. 4 of them, actually. I wrote 2 of them myself. Thank you very much. So when the Interspecies Exchange Program decided to send a human to live with a Volnari pack for 6 months, I volunteered to oversee the project. I mean, how hard could it be? Humans were pack animals too, sort of. They had families, tribes, all that social structure stuff. This was going to be a fascinating study in comparative sociology. The human they sent us was named Marcus Chen. He was 32 solar years old, which I'm told is still relatively young for humans, though they live such bizarrely short lives that it's hard to tell. He had dark hair, dark eyes, stood about 6 feet tall, which made him short by Volnari standards, but apparently average for humans. And he had this smile that made you immediately suspicious that he was planning something. He arrived at our settlement on the northern continent of Vulnar Prime on a Tuesday. I remember this because Tuesdays are when we do the pack hunt, and I figured it would be a great way to introduce him to pack dynamics right away. Show him how we work together, how we coordinate, how we bring down prey as a unified group. Real bonding experience. Marcus took one look at our hunting party, 20 of the finest Volnari hunters in the region, all of us armed and ready, and said, "Cool. Do you guys mind if I sit this one out? I had a really big breakfast on the shuttle." I should have known then. I really should have known. The first month went fine. Marcus integrated reasonably well. He couldn't keep up with us during hunts, obviously. Humans are ridiculously slow and weak compared to Volnari. But he was polite. He asked good questions. He seemed genuinely interested in our culture. He stayed with pack leader Thorax's family group, which included Thorax, his mate Silvara, and their 2 cubs, Kex and Mira. The cubs were about 4 solar years old, which for Volnari is that awkward stage where they're too young to hunt with the adults, but old enough to need to start learning pack behavior. They should have been eating independently, learning food hierarchy, understanding that you eat when the pack leader says, you eat and not before. Should have been. About 6 weeks into Marcus's stay, Silvara came to me looking concerned. "Carthex, I need to speak with you about the human." "What's wrong? Is he not adapting well?" "It's not that," she said, her tail swishing in that particular way that meant she was confused rather than upset. "It's the cubs. They've stopped eating normally." I felt my ears perk up. "Stopped eating? Are they ill?" "No, that's the strange part. They're perfectly healthy. But they refuse to eat unless Marcus feeds them." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "They only eat when Marcus gives them food. If Thorax or I put food in front of them, they just sit there and stare at it. But the moment Marcus walks over with the same food, they eat it immediately. And they've started following him everywhere." This was, to put it mildly, Weird. Vulnerary cubs are hardwired to respond to pack hierarchy. They should have been eating when their parents told them to eat, not waiting for some random alien who wasn't even part of their species. I decided to observe for myself. That evening, during the communal meal, I watched carefully. Silvara placed a bowl of fresh Kelvac meat in front of Kex and Mira. Both cubs looked at the food, looked at their mother, then looked around until they spotted Marcus, who was sitting about 20 feet away, talking with some of the other pack members. The cubs didn't eat. They just sat there, staring at the food, occasionally glancing toward Marcus. After about 10 minutes, Marcus finished his conversation and wandered over. "Hey, little troublemakers," he said, crouching down to their level. "What's the matter? Not hungry?" Both cubs immediately started making little whining sounds and pressing their snouts against him. Marcus laughed. And I have to say, human laughter is one of the strangest sounds in the galaxy. It's like they're choking but happy about it. All right, let's see what we've got here." He picked up Kex's bowl and held it out. "Kex, buddy, time to eat." Kex ate. Marcus moved to Mira and did the same thing. "Mira, your turn. Come on, eat up." Mira ate. I walked over to Marcus after the cubs had finished. "Can you explain to me what just happened?" Marcus looked up at me with that smile again. "What do you mean?" "The cubs. They wouldn't eat until you told them to." "Oh, yeah." He shrugged. "They do that." "But why?" "I don't know. I guess they like me." I spent the next 3 days observing more carefully, and the pattern was consistent. The cubs would only eat when Marcus was directly involved. Sometimes he had to hand them the food. Sometimes he just had to be sitting next to them. Sometimes he had to verbally encourage them. But without Marcus, no eating happened. I called a meeting with Thorax and Silvara. "This is highly unusual behavior," I said. "Cubs should be responding to your authority, not to an alien visitor who's only been here a few weeks." Thorax's ears were flat against his head, a sign of frustration. "I'm aware, Carthex. But what can we do? We can't force them to eat, and Marcus seems to be the only one who can get them to do it." "Has he been doing anything unusual with them? Any behavior that might explain this?" Silvara's tail did that confused swish again. "That's the thing. He doesn't really do anything. He just talks to them, plays with them sometimes. He's very gentle." "Gentle?" I asked. "What do you mean?" "He never disciplines them, never raises his voice. When they misbehave, he just redirects them or explains why they shouldn't do something. It's very strange. He treats them almost like they're fragile." This was getting more bizarre by the minute. Vulnerary cubs need firm guidance. They need to understand pack hierarchy through clear, consistent discipline. Being too soft with them leads to poorly socialized adults who don't understand their place in the pack structure. I decided to talk to Marcus directly. I found him in the communal area, playing some kind of game with Kex and Mira that involved tossing a small ball back and forth. The cubs were having the time of their lives, yipping and jumping around. "Marcus, can we talk?" "Sure thing." He tossed the ball one more time, then stood up. "What's up, Carthex?" "The cubs, their eating behavior. Can you explain what's happening?" Marcus tilted his head. "They're eating, aren't they? I thought that was the goal." "Yes, but they're only eating when you're involved. This is disrupting normal pack dynamics." "Is it though?" Marcus asked. "I mean, they're healthy, they're happy, they're eating enough. Does it really matter how it happens?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Pack structure matters. They need to learn to respond to their parents' authority, not to an outsider." Marcus was quiet for a moment. watching the cubs play with the ball. Then he said something that would fundamentally change my entire understanding of pack behavior. "Carthex, have you considered that maybe they trust me because I don't act like an authority figure?" What? Think about it. Thorax and Silvara are their parents, right? They're pack leaders. They're authority figures. There's a whole hierarchy thing going on. But me? I'm not part of that structure. I'm just some weird alien who hangs out and plays with them. No pressure, no hierarchy, just fun. I felt my world tilting slightly. But cubs need structure. They need to understand hierarchy. "Sure," Marcus said, "but they also need to feel safe. And sometimes having someone around who isn't part of the power structure makes you feel safer." Over the next few weeks, I watched more carefully, and I started to see what Marcus meant. When Thorax or Silvara approached the cubs, there was a subtle change in the cubs' body language. Nothing bad, just a kind of tension. They were always aware of their place in the hierarchy, always slightly on guard. But when Marcus approached, they relaxed completely. Their tails wagged freely, their ears perked up. They would flop over and show their bellies, which for Volnari is the ultimate sign of trust and safety. The eating thing, I realized, wasn't about Marcus having authority over the cubs. It was about Marcus making them feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Eating is a vulnerable activity. You have to put your head down, focus on the food, let your guard down. And for some reason, these cubs only felt safe doing that when Marcus was around. I started interviewing other pack members who had been spending time with Marcus. The pattern was consistent. Cubs and younger Volnari were drawn to him. They felt comfortable around him. And it wasn't because he was dominant or authoritative. It was precisely because he wasn't. One evening, I found Marcus sitting outside with both cubs curled up against him. He was stroking their fur gently and humming something. "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Shoot." "Why do you care so much about the cubs?" He looked surprised. "Why wouldn't I? They're not your offspring. They're not even your species. By any logical measure, you shouldn't have any investment in their well-being." Marcus thought about this for a long moment. "Carthex, where I come from, we have a saying. It takes a village to raise a child. It means that caring for kids, for the next generation, that's not just the parents' job. That's everyone's job. When I see Kex and Mira, I don't think about whether they're my species or my kids. I just see two little ones who need someone to care about them. And I do. So I do. But you're not trying to take over the parents' role? God, no. Thorax and Silvara are great parents. I'm just providing something different, something extra. Think of me as like a fun uncle." "A fun uncle?" "Yeah. The adult who's not in charge of discipline or rules, who just shows up to play and makes sure the kids know they're loved." I sat down next to him. "Humans do this? Care for offspring that aren't theirs?" "All the time. Teachers, coaches, neighbors, friends, family members. Humans are pack animals, Carthex. But our packs are weird. We don't always stick to blood relations. We build networks of care. We adopt kids who aren't ours. We help raise our friends' children. We volunteer to work with young people we've never met. It's just what we do." I thought about the Volnari approach. In our packs, you cared for your own cubs and the pack leader's cubs, and that was it. Other people's offspring were their own problem. We had structure, we had hierarchy, we had order. But we didn't have this. This easy, uncomplicated affection that Marcus showed. This willingness to invest time and energy into cubs that weren't his responsibility. "Is that why the cubs only eat when you're around?" I asked. because you make them feel like it's safe to be vulnerable. Maybe, Marcus said. Or maybe they just like me. Kids are weird. Human kids do stuff like this all the time. They'll decide they only want one specific person to read them bedtime stories, or they'll only eat vegetables if grandma makes them. It's not really about logic. It's about feeling safe and loved. The next day, I had a breakthrough. I was watching Marcus feed the cubs their midday meal, and I noticed something. He wasn't just giving them food. He was talking to them the entire time, encouraging them, praising them, telling them they were doing a great job. That's it, Kex. Good boy. Look at you eating so well. And Mira, you're such a good eater. I'm so proud of you both. The cubs' tails wagged like mad. I realized that for Marcus, feeding wasn't just about nutrition. It was a bonding activity. It was a way of showing care and affection. And the cubs had picked up on this. They associated eating with Marcus's affection, so they wanted Marcus present when they ate. It was completely illogical by Volnari standards. But by human standards, it made perfect sense. I started testing a hypothesis. I asked Thorax and Silvara to try Marcus's approach. Instead of just putting food down and walking away, stay with the cubs. Talk to them. Encourage them. Make eating a positive, bonding experience. It worked. Not immediately and not completely. The cubs still preferred when Marcus fed them, but they started accepting food from their parents more readily when the parents used Marcus's approach. By month 4, something interesting was happening. The cubs were eating normally again, accepting food from anyone. But they had a preference for eating in groups, especially if Marcus was part of the group. And they were more sociable in general, more confident, more willing to interact with other pack members. I documented all of this carefully, because this was turning into one of the most interesting behavioral studies I'd ever conducted. One evening, I found Marcus sitting alone, looking up at the stars. "Homesick?" I asked. "A little," he admitted. "But I'm glad I came. This has been amazing. Can I ask you something that's been bothering me?" "Sure." "Why do humans care so much? About everything, I mean. You came here to learn about us, but you've spent most of your time taking care of 2 cubs that aren't yours, that aren't even your species, that you'll probably never see again after you leave. Why invest so much?" Marcus smiled. "Because they needed it, Carthex. And because I could. Isn't that enough? But what do you get out of it? What do I get out of it?" Marcus laughed. "I got to see 2 scared, uncertain cubs turn into confident, happy kids. I got to be part of their lives during an important time. I got to make a difference. That's not nothing, Carthex. That's actually a pretty big deal." I thought about this. Humans evolved as pack hunters, like Volnari, but your packs work differently than ours. How so? Our packs are hierarchical. Everyone has a place, a role, a rank. It's efficient. It works. But your packs, I think your packs are built on something different. Not hierarchy, but connection. You don't care for young ones because it's your duty or your place in the hierarchy. You do it because you form emotional bonds with them. "Yeah," Marcus said softly. "Yeah, that sounds about right." "It's terribly inefficient," I said. "Probably. And it leaves you vulnerable to emotional pain when those connections are broken." "Absolutely. But it also means you'll care for any young one who needs it, regardless of whether they're yours or not." That's the idea. I sat quietly for a moment, processing this. I think I'm beginning to understand why humans are the way they are. What way is that? Dangerous, unpredictable, emotionally driven, but also kind, generous, willing to help even when it doesn't benefit you. Marcus grinned. We're a mess, aren't we? Yes, I agreed, but perhaps a useful mess. In month 5, something unexpected happened. A younger pack member named Vex, who was having trouble fitting into pack hierarchy and had been acting out, started spending time with Marcus. Vex was too old to be considered a cub, but too young to be a full adult. A difficult age. Vex had been refusing to eat during communal meals, a sign of social distress. The pack leaders had tried discipline, structure, clear hierarchy enforcement. Nothing worked. Marcus just talked to Vex, asked questions, listened, didn't try to fix anything or enforce anything, just listened. Within 2 weeks, Vex was eating normally again. I asked Marcus what he had done. He shrugged. Sometimes people don't need solutions, Carthex. They just need to be heard. By month 6, Marcus's presence had fundamentally altered the social dynamics of our pack. Cubs were more confident. Younger pack members were more willing to express concerns. Even some of the adults had started adopting Marcus's approach, being more verbally encouraging, spending more time in positive interactions rather than just hierarchical enforcement. The pack was less efficient, I'll admit that. There was more time spent on emotional bonding, less time spent on strict hierarchy maintenance. But the pack was also happier, more cohesive, more willing to support each other. When it came time for Marcus to leave, the entire pack gathered to say goodbye. Kex and Mira were inconsolable. They pressed against Marcus, whining, not understanding why he had to go. Marcus knelt down and hugged them both. Hey, it's okay. You two are going to be fine. You're strong and smart and brave, and your parents love you so much. You're going to do great things. But we want you to stay. Kex whimpered in broken standard. I know, buddy, I know. But I have to go home. I have my own pack waiting for me. Will we see you again? Mira asked. Maybe, Marcus said. The galaxy's a big place, but you never know. And even if we don't see each other again, I'll always remember you. Both of you. You're very special to me. Thorax stepped forward. Marcus Chen of Earth, you have honored our pack with your presence. You have cared for our cubs as if they were your own. You have taught us that there are different ways to build a pack, and all of them have value. You will always be welcome here. Marcus stood and clasped Thorax's shoulder, which for Volnari is a gesture of deep respect between equals. Thank you, Thorax. Thank you all. This has been the experience of a lifetime. As Marcus's shuttle lifted off, I stood with Thorax, Silvara, and the cubs, watching it disappear into the sky. Carthex, Thorax said quietly. What do you think happened here? What did we learn? I thought about this carefully. I think we learned that pack structure isn't the only thing that matters. That sometimes the bonds we form outside of hierarchy are just as important as the bonds within it. That caring for the young should be everyone's responsibility, not just the parents. And that sometimes the most important thing you can do is make someone feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Do you think other Volnari packs could learn from this? I hope so. I'll be including all of this in my report to the Interspecies Exchange Program. But honestly, I think it's going to take a while for people to accept it. It goes against everything we think we know about pack dynamics. Silvara nuzzled her cubs gently. The cubs are eating normally now, she said, even without Marcus. But they're different than they were before. More confident, more affectionate, more willing to trust. Is that bad? I asked. No, she said softly. I don't think it is. I think it's good. But it's strange. We raised them the same way we were raised. Strict hierarchy, clear rules, firm discipline. But Marcus came along and broke all those rules, and somehow they're better for it. Maybe that's the lesson, I said. That rules are important, but they're not everything. That sometimes what people need most isn't structure, but kindness. 3 months after Marcus left, I published my findings. The paper was titled Alternative Pack Dynamics, a study of human bonding behavior and its effects on vulnari cubs. It caused quite a stir in the xenobiology community. Half the researchers thought I'd lost my mind. The other half wanted to study humans immediately. I got a message from Marcus about 6 months after he left. It was a video message showing him back on Earth with his own family. He had a human partner and 2 human cubs of his own, though humans call them children. "Hey, Carthex," Marcus said in the video. "I wanted you to know that I've been telling everyone about my time on Vulner Prime, about Thorax and Silvara and the pack, but especially about Kex and Mira. Those 2 little troublemakers taught me as much as I taught them. I learned that caring for kids transcends species, that the basics of love and safety and encouragement, those are universal. Tell them I said hi. Tell them I miss them. And tell them that wherever they are, whatever they're doing, Uncle Marcus is proud of them." I showed the message to the pack. The cubs, who were getting quite a bit bigger now, watched intently. When it was over, Kex looked up at me and asked, "Can we send a message back?" "I don't see why not." We recorded a message showing how the cubs had grown, how the pack was doing, how we'd adopted some of Marcus's approaches to cub rearing. We told him about the changes in pack dynamics, about how other families were trying his methods, about how the cubs still talked about him all the time. And at the end, both Kex and Mira looked into the camera and said, in carefully practiced standard, "We miss you, Uncle Marcus. Thank you for teaching us that it's okay to need help. Thank you for showing us that we're loved." I sent the message off into the void of space, hoping it would reach Earth, hoping Marcus would see it and know that his time here had mattered. Because that's the thing about humans, I've come to realize. They form these bonds, these connections, even when it's impractical. Even when it doesn't benefit them, even when they know they'll have to say goodbye. They invest everything they have into caring for others, and they do it simply because someone needs to be cared for. It's inefficient. It's emotionally messy. It's completely illogical by most species standards. But maybe, just maybe, it's exactly what the galaxy needs. A year after Marcus left, I received an official communication from the Interspecies Exchange Program. They were expanding the program, sending humans to more species, more worlds. They specifically cited my research as evidence that human bonding behavior could have positive effects across species. I was asked to consult on the program, to help other species prepare for human visitors, to explain what they should expect. I accepted, of course, because if nothing else, the galaxy should be warned that when a human shows up and starts caring about your cubs, your kids, your young ones, your pack will never be quite the same again. And honestly, that's probably a good thing. The last time I visited Thorax's family, 2 years after Marcus left, Kex and Mira were nearly full grown. Strong, confident, well-adjusted young adults. They had taken on mentorship roles themselves, helping younger cubs adjust to pack life, using the same patient, encouraging approach that Marcus had used with them. Silvara told me they had started a new tradition in the pack. Once a week, during communal meals, pack members would sit with cubs who weren't their own, talk to them, encourage them, Make sure every cub in the pack knew they were cared for by the whole community, not just their parents. They called it Marcus Time. I asked Thorax what he thought about all of this, about how one human had managed to change centuries of Volnari pack tradition in just 6 months. Thorax looked out over the pack, watching adults and cubs interacting, talking, laughing. "I think Marcus showed us something we'd forgotten," he said. "That pack isn't just about hierarchy and structure. It's about belonging, about knowing that you matter to people beyond just your place in the pecking order." He reminded us that cubs need more than discipline and rules. They need to know they're loved, and not just by their parents, but by everyone. "Do you think the changes will last?" I asked. "I hope so, because I've seen the difference. Cubs raised with Marcus's approach, they're more resilient, more confident, more willing to help others. They understand hierarchy, but they also understand compassion. And I think that makes them better Volnari." I left that visit with a profound sense of satisfaction. My research had mattered. Marcus's visit had mattered. And somewhere out there in the galaxy, a human who had simply decided to care about 2 alien cubs had changed an entire species' approach to raising their young. That's the thing about humans. They're not the strongest species. They're not the smartest. They're not the fastest or the most advanced or the most powerful. But they care about everything, about everyone, even when it makes no logical sense to care. And sometimes, that makes all the difference. 15 years later, I attended a galactic conference on child-rearing practices across species. Kex was there, now a respected pack leader himself, presenting on modern Volnari cub development practices. In his presentation, he talked about the importance of community care, about creating environments where young ones feel safe and loved by everyone, not just parents, about the balance between structure and affection. During the question period, someone asked where these ideas had come from. Kex smiled, and for a moment I could see that confident young cub he'd been, the one who'd only eaten when a certain human was around. "These ideas," Kex said, "came from a human named Marcus Chen, who taught me and my sister that being vulnerable is okay, that asking for help is okay, that you don't have to earn love, you just have to accept it. He wasn't our parent, he wasn't even our species, but he cared about us anyway, and that changed everything." After the presentation, I approached Kex. "He'd be proud of you, you know." "I hope so," Kex said. "I've been meaning to contact him, but I wasn't sure if he'd remember us." "Trust me," I said. "Humans never forget the young ones they care about. Send him a message. I guarantee he'll be thrilled to hear from you." 3 weeks later, I got a message from Kex. It was a screenshot of a video call. On one side, Kex and Mira. On the other, an older Marcus Chen, gray now in his hair, laughing and crying at the same time, because that's what humans do when they're overwhelmed with emotion. The message from Kex simply said, "You were right. He remembered everything." Of course he did. Because that's what humans do. They care, they bond, they remember. Even across species, even across years and light years and fundamental differences in biology and culture, they care anyway. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Not about pack dynamics or cub-rearing practices or social hierarchy. Maybe the lesson is that caring about someone, really caring, that transcends everything. Species, distance, time, logic. Humans figured that out a long time ago. The rest of us are still catching up. But we're learning. Slowly. One pack at a time, one cub at a time. And it all started because 2 Volnari cubs decided they only wanted to eat when a human fed them, and an entire pack was concerned and confused. Turns out, the cubs knew something we didn't. They knew that sometimes the most important thing isn't who feeds you, but how they make you feel while doing it. They knew that safety and love matter more than hierarchy and structure. They knew that a strange alien who showed up to care about them for no logical reason was exactly what they needed. The cubs were right. We were just too stuck in our ways to see it. Thank the stars the humans showed up to teach us. Because now, 15 years later, Vulnari cubs across the planet eat better, feel safer, and grow up more confident. All because one human decided that caring about 2 alien kids was worth his time. That's humanity for you. Inefficient, emotional, illogical, and absolutely, undeniably worth learning from. The end. Or maybe just the beginning, depending on how you look at it.